wokovu kamili tumepata. Bwana Yesu ndiye ametupa. Eloi, Eloi, alilia. Mbona Mungu wangu waniasi.
June 12, 1990.
That this new person that I hadn't seen before was there. So during the game time, he caught my eye because I hadn't seen him there before, but he was very outgoing. He was even leading some of the games, and I'm like, at the time, people who know me now would never believe this, but I was very shy at the time. So I'm like, please leave me alone, don't talk to me. Who is this guy? And he was wearing his shades inside. We were inside a room, and he was wearing his shades. So I'm like, okay.
In the early 90s?
Yeah, yes, in the early 90s, box cut. You know? Yeah, the colors.
It had a purple sleeve,
Yeah,
green sleeve.
it's true.
Wow.
It's true. It's true. So he caught my eye then, but then when we went into the time of the Bible study time, you know, the person who was leading the Bible study was asking questions and people were just quiet. I mean, we were young, so you know that thing of Bible study being interesting, you know, okay. In fact, we used to do games first so that people come, because if people know Bible studies first, they would come late for the games after.
Okay.
So, but during the Bible study time, this new guy was really like sharing a lot and answering the questions, and I was like, okay, he knows his word.
All right.
So that also caught my attention. And then after that session, I don't know if you remember the days of KBC when they used to have the weather forecast and they had this thing of sticking, what is it called? Flannel graphs. They used to stick, today the weather will be hot, then they stick a sun.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to rain. So I took my umbrella with me, and of course it did not rain. There was not a cloud in the sky, but it was very hot. So I remember I had opened my umbrella and I was talking with a friend of mine, and suddenly I'm 20. And so that's the catch when you ask about dating. We actually had related for a while. We didn't
For
bother
a
to
long
ask
time,
our age.
Okay.
I started leading worship and doing things like that when I was really young, when I was 12.
Right.
And I always hung out with people older than me. I thought he was younger, he thought I was older.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we had to take a while to develop the relationship before.
All right. But then later on now, you had to formalize this somewhere along the line.
Yes, yes.
Tell us about that.
That's another movie. So we are moving along. I think it was a very good friendship.
Yeah.
The thing that was fun about it was now the Jamas of Paki and the Jamas of Gudi. So it was kind of just youth growing up, boys, you know, and then you know, among the boys you can tease each other because you're like you can see this one has an interest, a social interest. Then of course you deny it, you know, and then but it's still developing. So there was a way that when we were growing in that fellowship, the relationship was not really, it wasn't really like we're dating now, this is courtship. It was just kujuana. Yeah, it was just, you know, being in her home. Actually, that's one of the things that struck me initially, was going into her home, that she had she was, okay, her parents were missionaries, but they didn't act like missionaries. And the reason I'm saying is this is because after church or after the youth group, all the youth from other churches and we would all find ourselves at their place. Had gone to Moody. So as much as it was like a general fellowship, there were things that God was doing in my heart telling me, okay, this might just be the one. Like, this thing will work itself out. So as I'm beginning to realize how long she had been in the country, how long their parents were missionaries, they actually came to Kenya in 1986.
Wow.
So I mean, so she grew up here. Her memories start here.
All right.
But for me, it was like, okay, there's so much more to this relationship. It's not just I'm not the guy who was knocking at the gate, and then she comes out and we go. It's like I got a window into their family and their home.
So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
what like started things rolling more than just are we friends? Are we more
Like,
than
where is
friends?
this going?
I had to have an emergency appendectomy and have my appendix removed. And so I don't know. I think he thought I was dying. So he came to the hospital after I just had the surgery. He came with a single rose, which I still have, by the way. I dried it and saved it.
Yeah.
And he told me, we talked for a while, and as he was leaving, he said, well, I need to go now, but you know I love you. And you know that's the moment you've been waiting for all your life. And I look terrible, I'm in the hospital, and all I could think to say was thank you. But that's where I think it finally started things out, okay, now we can talk. Yeah, that was in 1994, I think, end of 1994.
And Sarah is so unique. I mean, she's so unique. The rose that I gave her that day, she kept. And every other day after that I gave her any rose, a bouquet, there's this thing where, hey, ladies are creative, she would turn them upside down so they dry, and then she would keep them. So we actually ended up being together for 7 years before we got married. So on our wedding day, the flower girls, all the petals that they put on the aisles were all the roses that I had given to Sarah along the way. So it's like, okay, so everything has meaning. There was no wastage.
But were you ever afraid, you know, to get married to this girl because she was a missionary's daughter? That could be very intimidating. And then I want to know whether at any point, you know, you had this issue of cultural differences, even though she had grown up around. Did you ever encounter anything that you felt that there's a cultural differences and you were afraid, you're not sure you're going to make it?
I think you've just said it right there. I think what happened with Sarah is a very unique scenario, because it wasn't like I went to Moody, that Moody I keep talking about, and then met her there in Chicago. So I'm trying to tell her, okay, I'm from Nairobi. Have you ever heard of Nairobi? You know, it's like she was born and raised where I'm from. And then we go to college where I've never been, but where she's from. So there was a way that I feel like sometimes we think we are more, that she's more Kenyan than she is American, and yet we've both been exposed to our homes of origin. So I've been in the US and she's lived here.
He's actually lived in the States longer than I have.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I think we balance each other out well. I can honestly say in all those 20-something years, I have never had a thought in my head, "Ah, he's such a Kenyan," you know, or "Oh, this is," yeah.
And okay, then again, we have this passion for marriages, and as we have been working with people, with couples, you know, through the premarital counseling aspect, and then once they're married, we do a lot of enrichment, and then we do baby basics, what to expect when the babies are coming. And so watching relationships, many couples or many people look at us and they see, ooh, what a stark
Big
difference. This
differences.
guy is brown, she's pink. How does this thing work? And we realize that, especially in Kenya, in our context, but it's a global thing. The home I grew up in is not the home she grew up in. You should
communicate
know.
and you don't, you know, like he's saying, the normals are still different. The way you eat supper, the way you celebrate birthdays, just because you come from the same place doesn't mean it's the same, but
Yeah,
you assume.
but you
You're
assume.
supposed to know.
So how do you balance?
You know, Bible and so preaching, teaching, a lot of that is my line. Her line is family counseling. She's a psychologist basically, and so I think what I find is she's more.
Does she read every thought you have?
I wish. I wish.
So she's more of the admin, you know,
Okay.
and managing the relationships and a lot of the emailing and contacting people, and I'm more of the pastoral. So I think even you as a couple, you can't be doing the same thing at the same time. Actually, earlier in our
Yes,
marriage,
we learned
much
that.
earlier, we talked about it. We were like, we can't be doing, because I think that's where what you're saying comes in. You know, the love and the friend and the decision maker, and you know, like, so how do you run this? Is we kind of agreed much earlier on. You do what you're good at, and let me do. So there are ways that we're working together, but we each have our thing. I have my
Yeah.
space where, you know, I'm doing my kind of my pastoral ministry. And the beauty of pastoral is you're just this gracious, warm, you know, teaching guy. But then she's like the one, okay, admin issues now, finances, the auditing, because you do need both, you know.
Yes,
and,
yes,
and
yes, you do.
And
yeah,
if you think
yeah,
about
so
it,
you
it's
have-
the same skill in marriage that you need in relating even with your colleagues, even if you're not married to your colleagues. Yeah, I think I would say
yeah.
just what we said earlier. You have to be intentional. Don't just hope. I hope one day I'll have a good marriage. People always tell us that. I hope I'll have a marriage like yours.
Yeah.
Don't hope. What is it that
hope.
you will do? You know, things don't just happen, but you have to put thought into
Because
it.
you worked it.
Absolutely.
You worked
And
it.
we still, it's not we
still
worked
working
it,
it.
we are still working it every
Even
single
now.
day.
It's 18 years of marriage,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're still working it.
Yes.
Still working. You're still doing dress rehearsals. Because things
Yeah.
change, the children come, you know. Marriage is a very interesting thing because for us, maybe at 18 years, someone who's married 8 years or maybe 3-4 years, they look at us and say, wow, so many years. But those who are married 35 years, we are the ones
Yeah.
looking at them and saying, whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, they've raised children and their children have children. And so there's always somebody ahead of you, there's somebody behind you, but you must always be intentional. You must
Yeah.
always be growing and learning.
Yeah.
But good relationships are out there. I think it's us to make them, you know.
All right. Well, I love how he finished because this is us. So it's us who make them. Well, that has been Reverend Victor and Sarah Kabutha.